Joint attention is this idea that two people can jointly attend to something together. In order to establish joint attention, you normally need to be able to control another person's eye gaze by putting something of great interest in front of them. So when you think about establishing joint attention with a child who has limited interests, you want to make sure that you are using something that they naturally gravitate toward. So if they have an item that they like to flip or flick, then maybe use that item, right? Or if they have a particular book that I like to carry everywhere with them, then I would use that item. If they have a particular food, and maybe they only eat a couple of foods, then I would use one of those particular items as something that you're going to use to draw the person's attention to a joint session. So for now, I have picked a book of great interest, as obviously my son is looking at it with quite a lot of interest, right? So again, you're just using your observation skills to pick out that one thing that a kid might be interested in. And so we're going to work on trying to establish these joint attention skills. So when you are doing this, you might want to say, oh, look at, there are all these birds. This one's blue and purple, and this one's green and red. The kid may not have the conversation skills, but they are able to now look at things, and because your finger is pointing out things and you're describing it, you're able to continue that joint attention to something. So when we're doing joint attention, proximal points, which are things that actually touch an item or are very close to the item, are very important, and these will then transfer over into learning situations where you're going to be using gestures to teach new things, right? So you might, again, start with something of great interest. You are then drawing a joint attention session into play so that two people are jointly attending to one item together, right? We want to control eye gaze. Okay, obviously I've lost his attention. He's more interested in something else. And so now that this is no longer a good teaching session. So again, you want to make sure that anything that might be distracting is away from the child. And again, you have something of great interest to work on those attention skills. Making attention happen for longer periods of time. Again, high interest items, okay? And as you're doing this joint attention session, you can point things out, again, using those proximal points. All right, and making sure that you can watch your child's eye gaze to see if they are following those points that you're making. If you see that those eyes are changing their eye gaze based on your point, that means that you have now established your points as something that can control eye gaze, which is huge in teaching students who have a lot of disabilities. So you can use that gesture then to point out details. All right, and not only can you use this as thinking about nouns, but you can talk about features of things. So if you had a picture of like a dog, you can start to point out features of a dog. Like, oh, look at the dog has a tail. The dog has 4 legs. And you can start to use your language as well as your point in that joint attention to continue to use language to develop their vocabulary and their ability to receptively identify different things in a joint attention session. So again, joint attention is huge when we're thinking about teaching new skills. It's huge when you're thinking about developing communication skills because two people are now able to attend to one thing and you can have a conversation about that one thing. So this is one way that you can establish joint attention. This way of establishing joint attention is also much easier than sitting across from a child, because when a student has limited ability to make eye contact with another individual, sometimes sitting across from that individual can be very intimidating. So sitting side by side where that eye contact is not necessary, this makes them much more relaxed, all right? And it also allows you to use that point so that they are seeing things from the same perspective rather than a different perspective. Because again, seeing things from another person's perspective is often very difficult for them to be able to switch their mind around and see it from both point of view. So sitting side by side is often a great way to help work on those joint attention skills. And joint attention, again, is going to be key when we transfer over into tabletop learning activities.